I'm Dr. Virgil Troy and this is the Barley Man Gladiator Diet, and today I'm going to talk to you about refried beans. So earlier on today I had an appointment with the doctor. I might have mentioned earlier on this week that my bloods came through. I had them taken about a week ago, and as expected, on a whole food, plant-based, no sugar, no oil, no animal products, no processed foods, no dairy, my vitamin B12s pretty much took a dive. They literally went from here and then went right down like that over the last sort of 6 to 7 weeks. That may account for some of the periods where I felt a little bit weak, fatigued, and maybe on the odd occasion a little bit dizzy. There were a couple of times when I got out of bed in the morning and sort of felt myself almost falling over. So that explains the vitamin B12 deficiency, and those are some of the typical symptoms. So went to the doctor today and had a jab in the arm. And I bumped into a friend who been following the videos that I've been making and had been talking about the fact that she had spent the last week eating barley, which I said was great. And then we talked about a few ways in which you can, spice it up and change it, because, it can get boring if you're eating the same thing, but not really if you're adding things to it. Like, for example, I have sweet chili sauce on mine. I have like a pad thai sauce that you can get from most supermarkets. You always want to look for the low fat versions of everything that you get, or at least the full flavored versions that have a smaller or a much lower amount of fat. So for example, I think it was about 2 or 3 tablespoons, only got like sort of about 2 grams of fat in it. So as far as I'm concerned, that was good. But one of the other things that I asked her if she enjoyed it was refried beans, because when I've mentioned this on occasion to some people, they've said, refried beans? What is that? Is that beans that have been refried? So what I'm going to show you now is a can of refried beans. Now, before I do that, please note I get absolutely nothing in terms of sponsorship or money or anything like that. It just happens to be the brand that I enjoy, well, quite simply because it's the only one that's available at Pack and Save in Napier. I'm sure there are other versions. In fact, I know there are down at Chantel Foods just down the road. They've got some different versions of it, although I didn't quite like it as much as this brand. However, this is it here. El Paso refried beans, which is absolutely delicious. And when I explained the flavor before she went and got a can, I said it's almost like a spreadable luncheon sausage, if you're looking for something that it's close to it. So like a spreadable luncheon sausage, and you can pretty much add it to anything. So sometimes I just have this on top of refried beans, like I might heat them, put a couple of tablespoons on that, and I think that works out to about 100 grams. And you're only getting in at the absolute most, for 100 grams of this, which is like a quarter of it, which is heaps if you're going to use it as a dip or something like that, 0.7 grams of fat. And that's what you want to keep an eye out for, right? You want to be eating food that has very, very little fat in it. Because if you can keep your fat percentages down to 5 to 7%, then you're on your way to actually seeing some significant weight loss by amping up your carbohydrates to around 80-85%, and then the remainder of that is protein based on 0.8 or 0.9 grams per kilo of body weight. But this stuff here, it has, for 100 grams, it has 12 grams of carbohydrate. You're getting around, what's that, 353 kilojoules of energy, whatever that happens to be. There's a little bit of salt in it, and the ingredients typically, what do we got down here? Where are the ingredients? Distributed by what's in it? Oh, here we go. Cooked pinto beans, a little bit of salt, a little bit of sunflower oil, onion powder, cumin, garlic powder, chili powder, and paprika extract. And aside from all that, yeah, sure, it's processed, and yeah, I can make it myself, but you're not getting a whole heap of muck in this stuff. It is predominantly beans, which is what you want to be eating. Barley, beans, vegetables, squash, and fruit. That is the Barley Man Gladiator diet, and you can live on this stuff in the long term. Now, I guess one of the reasons why perhaps those living in ancient Rome that were gladiators probably didn't have a B12 deficiency issue is that one of the common fishes of the day was, one of the common foods of the day was fish, because obviously, the towns are located near the ocean, etc. So fish or fermented fish, they used to have a sauce called garum, which is like, the closest thing to it is like sort of an anchovy extract, but it was pretty much fermented fish intestines that have been ground up, laid out in the sun, dried off, and then powdered, and that was sprinkled on, which apparently was delicious. And I guess that's a way of actually getting your vitamin B12 as well. But if you don't want to eat meat, which you don't want to do, because, you know, why take in all those pollutants just to get a bit of B12? Get yourself an injection, which was, yeah, it'll take a little bit of getting used to, but in lieu of that, I'm just going to go and find a supplement that I can take orally that isn't too unpleasant and doesn't feel like someone sticking a small jackhammer into your delt. Right, so that's me. This is what I would go for. It's a nice, delicious addition. If you've not had it before, it's not that expensive. I think this is about $3 something New Zealand, which is what, like 50 US cents or something along those lines. You can get it, try it out and see what you think. Catch up with you over the weekend. I hope you have a pleasant one.